What's up, guys? We're back. We got some brand new combat footage here out of Ukraine, and also we've got one of the most epic, probably my favorite combat footage since the beginning of the full-scale invasion that somebody in the comments asked me to cover a little bit, and that's this one right here. It's a Predator. Well, call sign Predator. He holds off like two BMPs, a bunch of infantrymen. It's some of the most famous combat footage in Ukraine, but we're gonna start with this, then move into the other ones. I found some clips on Reddit and shit. Oh, you're stuck, baby. So, real quick, my name is Saxon. I go by Vegas here in Ukraine. Most of you guys know that. Joined the International Legion for the Defense of Ukraine in January of 2023. I'm still in Ukraine, no longer with the Legion. I was with Azov's International Battalion. I helped start that battalion. We deployed to the Touretsk area region last summer and did combat operations there, and it was killer, man. No pun intended. It was a great deployment. So I'm no longer with Azov now. I'm helping with fundraiser, doing some media stuff, and doing some other stuff that I hopefully going to be able to talk about more in the coming future. So all good stuff. We can jump into this, you guys. We keep all of our uncensored footage. If you like the heads exploding and body parts flying everywhere, the disturbing shit you guys seem to like, we keep all of that for our paid members over in our Discord link will be down below. Check it out if you want. We also have a ton of other Ukraine resources there. If you're on your way out to Ukraine, you've been considering it, you just want to learn about it, check out our Discord. We got a ton of cool stuff in there. All right, so let's start with this one. This is again, this is call sign Predator. Super famous video. So there's really not a whole lot I can even say about this video other than the fact that this guy has absolute balls of adamantium. If you've ever shot an RPG, most people haven't, but if you have, it'll ring your bell a bit, especially if you've got one of these big warheads, anti-vehicle warheads on him, like the one he just shot. And this dude just Somali fires this bitch over, like over his head, over this berm, straight into the side of that BMP. Let's watch that again. So cool. So his buddy's just feeding him ammo. Другой. Автомат! He's screaming, AK, give me my AK. That's a bad guy right there. That right there is a Russian assaulting his trench. Relatively well-armed Russian.
Мой автомат дай.
Two down. Dead check.
Во, пидоры лезут! Пидоры лезут! Автомат не утемный.
Somali firing a PKM like that. It's so sick. I shot a PKM and I just tried to like maybe dump 10 rounds just standing flat footed, you know? And I'm a heavier guy, and that shit rocked me. Like, I was like, it pushed me back pretty good. And this guy just with a PKM is wicked.
Гранату, гранату, гранату!
Also, great battle buddy, dude. Just handed him
Еще!
stuff.
Еще! Еще! Магазины, срочно, магазины! Магазины на автомат! Заряжайся, отстреливайся! Дай автомат, дай автомат!
That guy's like, let me get on all this. Get some reps in.
Заряди РПГ карандашом! Заряжай автоматом! Она просто... Дай тут... Это будет точно! Это! Дальше. Ты ебать!
Just incredible, dude. I don't know if that's a frag or something flies in their trench, but you could tell it rocks their world, especially a dude within the side the bunker. He probably felt more of that pressure since he was inside of a more confined space like that. You can hear him kind of moaning. Listen.
Ты ебать!
So I want to say two things. For one, I believe this was a mechanized assault where the enemy pulls up in this BMP or some kind of an armored personnel carrier, right? The one that he was shooting the RPGs at. They pulled up and basically this guy stops it in its tracks by putting 2 RPG rounds directly in the side. The infantry unloads at least a couple of them. This dude guns down 2 of them. Just stops this assault in its tracks, this mechanized assault in its tracks. And something I've talked about earlier on during the channel, but it's so important to realize, I think, is This right here is why the Ukrainians will never lose to Russia. They have they're fighting in their home on home ground, their home turf. They are fighting for their lives. They're fighting for their families, their children. They have everything to lose here. So these Russians, especially earlier on during this, when you've got like paid mercenaries like Wagner, you've got um, you've got soldiers getting conscripted out of penal colonies and straight out of prisons. These guys, these guys aren't in. Their heart's not in the fight, right? The Ukrainians' heart is in the fight. So many people. I'm willing to say 80 to 90% of people put in that exact same position would absolutely crumble. Maybe more than 90% would absolutely crumble. And this guy's fighting for his land, his people, his freedom, is fighting with every ounce of heart that he's got, and it's incredible. And the Russians cannot win this militarily because of that, in my opinion. This was just a cool clip that I found of a gunfight in a cemetery. It's got music laid over it, so we can't hear anything, but it's just a cool visual. It's got that looks like a PKM, but it's got this gnarly muzzle brake on it. And using headstones as cover. So crazy. Literally. And he's got a scar on his back. I was watching, and that guy's got an M4. These guys are kidding, man. I was reading the comments and stuff in this video, and it was saying stuff like these guys were fighting in a cemetery where there was a lot of soldiers who had died in World War II buried, and the irony and the history in that is just so crazy. Right, soldier, you're fighting on top of buried soldiers who at the time were, I believe it was Russian soldiers fighting the Nazis, but still. All right, let's watch this one, dude. This one's crazy. So again, there's music over this one, so I'm gonna talk through it. But it's a Humvee. It's Ukrainian assault unit in a Humvee. They just pulled up to the location. This guy in the front is just offloading the equipment. He strikes me as the team leader, and just bull spike after bull spike, AT4 after AT4 after AT4. I think he gets another one, or maybe not. He might be a part of the driver team. I don't know, but either way. And then this guy up top is just swiveling with that 50. Boom! They pull out and they hit a mine. Everyone gets out and is okay, which is insane. Because if that was an anti-tank mine, that's incredible. But it blew up that whole Humvee, dude. The fact that driver, he's completely engulfed in, like, how's anybody survived that? Pretty sure that dude's head was on fire at one point. The driver's amazing, man. All right, and then this last one is brand new footage, or pieces of new footage. Is this? Oh, it's got music on it too. It's so obnoxious. Let's get some context here. Operations units in Ukraine, Defense Intelligence Director Sogoria, eliminating Russian infantry on the front line. Russian patches they're pulling off. These drones, man. So gnarly. Everything is they're just so deadly, right? You guys see those the videos of the Russians in like I believe they're supposed to be thermal cloaks, but they look like penguins walking through. and they didn't work very well. So the Ukrainians are they're just watching them, surveilling, and it looks like just penguins walking in the snow, and then they hit them with FPVs and explode. God, dude, you see how many grenades that one dropped? Oh, little drone dog fights. Oh, we actually saw some of this on yesterday's video. Pretty sweet though, man. I mean, this is the insignia for Gore. It's the owl. You'll see this a lot here in Ukraine. Um, always a good or a telltale sign of finishing a gun. If when like a unit just finishes winning a gunfight is when they're looking at Russian patches because they're obviously going through looting the bodies like fucking Escape from Tarkov, taking souvenirs of the people that tried to invade their land, that did invade, who invaded their land and tried to take their freedom, right? Absolutely crazy. Oh, so we'll leave it at that, but I did see a side note that NATO was putting together a 30 was it $35 billion um package of aid and resources to be sent to Ukraine. That's great. That's very good. Um, you know, anything is helpful. But what I did see is this is largely going to be focused on defensive capabilities. Um, things like interceptor drones, anti like missile to missile defense, stuff like that, which is great. But basically, you're just you're putting a band-aid over an open wound, right? The band-aid's never going to heal that wound, but it could help it from getting infected or could keep it from getting worse potentially, but it's not going to heal that wound. And that's how I see aid like this. Yes, it's extremely helpful because of the sheer amount of drones and ordnance that Russia's pumping into Ukraine every single day. Um, having more defense against that's always going to be a good thing. But on top of that, there needs to be addition of more aggressive and more aggressive weapons and capabilities, longer range missiles, ways that Ukraine can put a massive hurting on the Russians rather than just basically sitting back and waiting for the world to wise up and come to their aid, right? Because that's what's happening. Every single Ukraine's been on the back foot since the very beginning of this war, and every day they're just waiting for a nation to step up and say, "Hey, here's the deal. We need to take the fight to Russia, right? Not like put boots on the ground and invade Russia necessarily, but we need long range missiles. They need longer range ordnance and assets to be able to really put hurting on the enemy." And I do think at the beginning of this, I wasn't a fan of the idea of like European countries putting boots on the ground in Ukraine. But this is 4 years. And next week will be 4 years in this war, man. The time has come and passed, and hopefully will come again, where European militaries should absolutely put boots on the ground and punch Putin and the Russian Federation in the face and drop this tyrannical government and regime. Absolutely. French soldiers should be on the ground. British soldiers should be on the ground. German soldiers should be on the ground. Belgian soldiers should be on the ground. Finnish soldiers should be on the ground. Polish soldiers should be on the ground. My opinion, right? It's not gonna no especially like being an American, I understand the sentiment of it's not our war. We don't want our troops. We don't want our troops and our boys dying over this. It's not our war. This is the world's war at this point, right? And it's so important that people understand that in the last 4 years, Putin has set the precedent that it is completely okay to full scale invade another country because there will be no repercussions other than some sanctions. That has been that is the only repercussion that's happened to Russia is some sanctions. So that precedent has been set, and people like Kim Jong Un, and people like the supreme leader of Iran, and people like President Xi of China see this, and they've been watching this for 4 years and seeing the free world do absolutely nothing to help Ukraine other than throw money and supplies from the sidelines, including their used vehicles, used weapon systems. Um, and of course, there's new stuff that gets sent in and shit, but it, again, in my opinion, I'm kind of on a soapbox right now, and I'll leave it after this. But in my opinion, the most important precedent that needs to be set was right when Russia illegally invaded Ukraine and started raping and pillaging and murdering the Ukrainian people. The free world allies, specifically Europeans, because they are closer, should have been all hands on deck. Everybody, let's go right now. Absolutely not. Because if we let this happen, the enemies of the free world and the enemies of democracy and the enemies of freedom will see this and think it's okay to do this. So we need to go right now and stomp this out. 4 years later, and we're wondering why the world is burning because there is no global authority anymore. There's there's no there's no um, nobody's afraid that big bad America is going to come kick their ass if they mess up. Nobody's afraid that big bad NATO is going to come kick their ass if they mess up. Nobody gives a shit. They've seen the terror that Putin and the Russian Federation have caused, and the free world do jack shit. Nobody cares anymore. People are going to do what they want. And we know the United States is capable of this, right? We've seen it we saw it in, come on, not Argentina. Wow, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of this country. Anyways, we just saw him take Maduro, and all of the military assets that were in place there. The U.S. is more than capable of helping. We also saw the U.S. help in Iran, help the Israelis, billions and billions and billions of dollars, plus striking in Iran, using American missiles and technology and fighter jets and pilots to strike in Iran. So when I hear people say, specifically Americans, this is not our war, was that your war over there in Iran? What, in my opinion, Putin and Russia are a far greater threat than a handful of untrained rebels with AKs trying to piece together a nuclear weapon over in Iran. Russia's already got nukes, a lot of them. They have a much bigger army, much bigger military force, much larger global presence. If anything, I would have expected the same response that we took with Iran and Israel, but for Ukraine and Russia. And the fact that there hasn't been that response with everything that's coming to light, especially in recent days with Epstein files, I won't get too conspiratorial because I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but a lot of this shit is hard to look away from. With a lot of this stuff coming to light, man, it really, 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 really looks like the United States government in some capacity, whether it's the president, the administration in whole, other politicians, it looks like the U.S. is in bed, somehow intertwined in global economical relations with Russia. Otherwise, none of this makes sense to me. Why would we not have just struck them or helped more? I won't say like, shoot missiles into Russia, American missiles in Russia, but why not help like we helped Israel and Iran? Why are we picking and choosing what allies that we help? Either stick to this ideology of America first, that's not our war, I would respect the hell out of that way more if they weren't picking and choosing other countries to help, right? If they're like, "Nope, not ours, not ours. Sorry, nope, nope. Sorry, Israel. Sorry, South America. Sorry, Mexico. Not our problem." Or stick to your guns and help your allies across the board unequivocally, right? As long as they're not deliberately and very obviously in the wrong. For example, if Ukraine had invaded Russia, right, in 2022, Ukraine invaded Russia, was killing Russian civilians and stuff like that. It's like, okay, we're obviously not going to help that, but it's so obviously clear in the polls and the statistics of people voting. They prove this, that the large majority of Americans specifically are in favor of helping Ukraine. But the minority, our government, is not. These guys are supposed to work for the people. The United States government, political officials are supposed to work for the people. Why are they not enacting law and legislation in favor of the 70 to 80% of Americans who think we should be supporting Ukraine more? I'll tell you why. Because it's in the government's best interest not to, for one reason or another. And that's what we need to figure out. Okay, I'll stop. Holy shit, that got so deep. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. We talk about this stuff a lot, even in the comments over in Discord. And I know a lot of you guys share the same sentiment that I do. So, but even if you don't, share, and I'm happy to talk about it. I'm not going to get mad at you for having a difference of opinion. That's how we get into wars and situations like this, when people can't talk about things openly, right? But in a much larger scale. Discord, link in description. I love you guys. We'll see you in the next video.